Experiment 3, we need to calculate the big end clearance, as we said before. That is in this area, in the connecting rod with the cap. So this is the first area, the first inside diameter or first measurement that must be taken. And the other reading is going to happen in the crankshaft itself. So the tool that we are going to use is the Vernier Caliper. When you measure the inside diameter, which is ID over here, we measure in this area, in straight line. So we measure this area over here. Not this area, because this area is close to the bolt area, in which we can see also there might be some difference on the reading. So what we need to do is that we need to tighten the cap, right, with the nuts and bolts to the connecting rod fully, and then we can use the Vernier caliper to measure the inside diameter. So we can take it multiple location. We can take it here, if we can take it also straight, or we can take it the other way around and register the reading. The second reading that also must be taken is the reading of the outside diameter of the crankshaft. The outside diameter for a crankshaft, also using the Vernier caliper. So you take the reading again, just to secure it, and then you can just note down the reading, and then you can calculate the clearance. Please remember that the inside diameter must be bigger than the outside diameter, as we said, otherwise they will not fit together. They will not be taught properly and fitted together. In experiment 4, 2 readings or measurements are required. The small end bearing, which is inside of here, as we discussed before, right? So we'll remove the pin now. First of all, we'll be removing the circlip, and then we will remove the gudgeon pin or piston pin. This is the second measurement that we're going to take. We will have to measure the ring gap, when the ring is for sure is inside. We will measure the gap and calculate the clearance that we might have or we will have. So the readings normally are taken into 3 areas: in the top area, and somewhere in the middle, right, and then somewhere at the bottom, just to make sure that the gap is similar or equal to each other, and that we don't have any ovality or we don't have an excessive wear at any place of the cylinder block or into the compression chamber. Otherwise, as we said, as a kind of solution, if the readings were different, right, the readings were severely different, then we need to do a reboring again, or a sleeving to the cylinder block, and thus we need to change the piston head if the clearance or the gap is increased, or the bore becomes bigger. Then we need to change the piston head, or we can add a sleeve, we call it sleeving, to overcome the deduction in size between them. The tools that I'm going to be using to remove the gudgeon pin, right, are the following. First of all, the vise. This is the vise, right? I just need to make sure it's started properly. As we said, this material is a brittle material, so they are easily break. So I need to protect it. So in order to protect it, I need to add some rags, first of all. Number 2 is that I need to hold and tight into the strongest area, and if we see from inside, that is the strongest area, which is very far at the end, not somewhere in here. This wall is fragile, they can break if we apply too much force. Okay, the tools are the circlip remover, the metal hammer, and extension that will help me to push down the gudgeon pin outside of the system. Another thing that needs to be taken in consideration, this is the other side of the gudgeon pin exit. So I need to make sure, in order to protect the parts, that the gudgeon pin, when it's exiting from here, it does not touch either the table or vise itself, otherwise they will break. So in order for that, I need to make sure that the exit way is also clear. So first, I have removed the circlip. Secondly, I've used the hammer and the extension to take out the gudgeon pin from here, right? Using a hammer and the extension. And now that was the place of the connecting rod. So this is a connecting rod. As we can see here inside, we have the journal bearing, inside journal bearing, right? So the second measurement, which is small end bearing, we will be measuring the gap between the inside, which is the ID of a journal bearing, which is inside the connecting rod, and the gudgeon pin outside diameter. Gudgeon pin outside diameter. So the second reading of today's experiment, which is experiment number 4, is to measure the ring end gap, which is over here. So we need to measure the small end gap using the filler gauge. Using the filler gauge to measure the small gap, and as we said, we need to take minimum of 3 trials, somewhere at the top, in the middle, and in the end. In order to reinstall the circlip again, one thing that you need to be taken in consideration, whenever you tight or reinstall the gudgeon pin, make sure that they don't go over the small groove area in which you can see here inside. The groove area is the area where the circlip must be seated to secure the gudgeon pin from moving out from its area, in which it might also lead to it can break the piston head, and they can make a severe damage to the cylinder block if they just went out. So we need to secure the area by locking it by using a circlip.